What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Whiskey Mo. This video is a discussion that we had on the Air Force Special Warfare Discord about special reconnaissance, the doctrine, and the career field, and where it fits within the Air Force and DOD enterprise. It's a little bit more high-minded than some of the stuff that we usually do. Usually we keep it kind of down in the weeds, make it a little bit easier for people to understand what is happening within the Air Force Special Warfare and combat support exercise. But this one, I feel like it was something I had been wanting to talk about. There was a really great article on War on the Rocks, which I will link below in the description. And we had a discussion about doctrine, operational and tactical levels, about where things fit. And I'm really excited, and I hope we can do a bit more of these. I hope you enjoy. Let me know in the comments what you think, and we'll see you around. Well, welcome everybody to tonight's fireside chat, where we are talking about where does special reconnaissance fit within the Air Force enterprise. For everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Whiskey Mo. Also, but in the real world, my name is Morgan Houston. I spent 6 years as a TAC-P, but what gives me a little bit more credibility is why I can talk about this stuff a little bit more. I'm also a graduate student who studies security studies with a focus on irregular warfare, specifically how information systems and operations affects unconventional warfare and great power competition. So this is kind of in my wheelhouse already. And the inspiration behind this was an article in War on the Rocks titled, "What Makes Air Force Special Reconnaissance Special?" There's a link to that in the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, which this is on YouTube as well, I will be posting a link in the thing below, and then we will go from there. So what we're going to talk about, we're going to do a quick overview of what we're going to cover. So we're going to talk about special operations, where special reconnaissance fits within the soft competencies, where SR fits within those competencies, and then we're going to do a little doctrine talk about special operations and special reconnaissance. I will go and do a quick overview of what the War on the Rocks article says and what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about some of those things. Then we're going to talk about some of the questions that they raise, some of the answers that they come up with, questions that that they didn't address, and some things. And then I want to talk about your thoughts and your ideas, because this isn't just me going to be talking at you. Please engage. If at any point you guys have questions, please put it in the chat or hit the button up in the upper right-hand corner so you can pop up here on stage. If I catch it, I will get it as we're going. So what we're going to talk about first things first, what we're going to talk about is special reconnaissance and the soft competencies. Why do we need to talk about the soft competencies when we talk about special reconnaissance? So first off, special operations are unique missions that require unique modes of employment, tactics, techniques, and procedures and equipment. And they're often conducted in hostile, denied, or politically and or diplomatically sensitive environments, and are characterized by one or more of the following: time sensitivity, clandestine or covert nature, low visibility, work with or through indigenous forces, greater requirements of regional orientation or cultural expertise, and a high degree of risk. So this is one of the most important things. This is coming from Joint Publication 3-05, which is the joint publication on special operations. When we talk about the core activities of special operations, there's a list here. It's direct action. It's what most people think about when we talk about special operations. That's your guys going on raids and killing bad guys and breaking their stuff. Special reconnaissance, countering weapons of mass destruction, counterterrorism, unconventional warfare, foreign internal defense, security force assistance, hostage rescue and recovery, counterinsurgency, foreign humanitarian assistance, military information support operations, MISO, and civil affairs operations. So you'll notice that in list number 2 is the list of special reconnaissance. So this is by doctrine, according to the DOD as a whole. Special reconnaissance is a core skill set of special operations forces. So every force that does special operations has to, within their core competencies, conduct special reconnaissance. What does that mean? Special reconnaissance entails reconnaissance and surveillance actions normally conducted in a clandestine or covert manner to collect or verify information of a strategic or operational significance, employing military capabilities not normally found within the conventional force. So to break that down to a little bit more bite-sized, what we're talking about, there are 3 levels of combat and warfare. There's the tactical, operational, and strategic. the higher you get from tactical to strategic, the more important and the bigger it is. So we're talking about reconnaissance activities that operate or that affect the operations of brigades, divisions, and then on the national level as well. So those are kind of the big things. But when we talk about doctrine, why is it that, thank you, Onyx, as always, taking care of me is in the big point, the big picture of things. As you look, one of the things that we have to understand is the reason why SR was created is because the Air Force was the only branch of the military that did not have a dedicated special reconnaissance force. In the Army, most of that was provided by two elements, the Special Forces groups and the Ranger Reconnaissance Company. In the Navy, that was done with SEAL teams and SWCS. In the Marine Corps, originally and traditionally, it was done by the reconnaissance companies, specifically force and division assets. As now with MARSOC, they've also doing it as well. The Air Force had never really had a dedicated force for it. Combat Controllers J's had always been a part of it. TAC-Ps are starting to get into the game now, but as the SAUT, the Special Operations Weather Teams, weather is considered reconnaissance because weather is also considered a night is considered a meteorological condition, so it's really weird. So as we were shifting things, like they were already doing reconnaissance, and now, but instead of focusing mostly on that meteorological side, now they are just expanding, and they're taking a lot of their cues. I think the first class of guys eventually they went to the BRC at the USMC, so those kinds of things. Excuse me. So so Stealth is our resident Marine recon expert, so listen to read whatever he says. So why is this important? Why are we talking about this? Well, there's a publication called War on the Rocks. It's a funny name. Their logo is a whiskey glass with some rocks in it, and an AK-47 is a stir. They are an academic online journal that focuses on foreign affairs, national defense, and security studies. One of the biggest things that they talk about is they mostly talk from an American perspective, and they posted this article called "What Makes Air Force Reconnaissance Special?" And this article is written by two authors, two current active duty Air Force members. They are very vague in their jobs, but one of them says that he has led in ST and TAC-P units as well as JSOC, and I don't doubt him. But you're going off the vagueness here. And then the other one is an intelligence guy. And so what they are talking about is why, with the shift from SAUT to reconnaissance, how does that work within the enterprise of the Air Force and reconnaissance in general, special reconnaissance as a doctrine, and where does everything fit within those kinds of things? I would ask, if you haven't, please read the article, but if you have read it, this should make a lot more sense. What they are mostly advocating for is the creation of special reconnaissance squadrons, which will integrate cyber, electronic warfare, and special reconnaissance airmen to conduct the special reconnaissance mission. They talk about how most of the Air Force ISR assets, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, are in the forms of technical hardware, things like U-2s, satellites. It's very rarely that they have relied heavily on the human factor, which is, I think, part of the reason why this article came about is because it's something brand new to within the enterprise as a whole. They advocate for a mixed leadership team that will involve special warfare airmen, intelligence, and cyber capabilities within the command structure: commander, operations officer, senior enlisted leadership. And their rationale behind this are what the Air Force got rid of the joint air special operations component elements, and to be replaced with the theater air operations squadrons, which kind of combined this multi-capable airman idea of taking multiple AFSCs, putting it together, and providing the liaison and coordination aspect for theater regional special operations commands. And so that's where they're getting a lot of this from. And they do use the examples of specifically reconnaissance battalions in the Marine Corps. But really their only reason to talk about that is for like mixed leadership when it comes to like intelligence and the reconnaissance Marines. But one of the things that, as we slowly kind of move down to talk about it, one of the things that they talk about is the fact that they talk about the things that they are authorized to do, and within the job descriptions of special warfare, what it is. So there's some concerns about who owns the battle space when it comes to SWAS, small unmanned aerial systems. In the Air Force, because the preponderance of SWAS systems are utilized by security forces, they actually own the purchasing program. But there seems to be a misunderstanding of how the ST side of the house works compared to like the conventional Air Force because of the funding streams and the allocations and some of the legal requirements under Title 10, which is funny because these guys are officers. They should understand these things. But there are also some concern about the fact that within the CFETP which is the Career Field Education and Training Plan for Special Reconnaissance Airmen, it doesn't say that they are authorized to be doing intelligence. But if you remember from our description of what Special Reconnaissance is, it never says anything about intelligence itself. Like, I think there is a misunderstanding here of what intelligence is versus reconnaissance. So those kinds of things, right? So it's interesting to see where it is. So Glass ACL says, I think that would be... No, CCT does not run the show. SR are not pushed by the wayside. So Stowe's part of Stowe's training is in reconnaissance. That is part of it, and that is part of the reason why SR is their schoolhouse is at Combat Control School as well, and everything is done jointly. I think what it is right now, and I'd also ask where you're getting this information, Glass ACL. Like, is this coming from, like, who is this coming from? Because everyone I talk to in the community, that is not the case. So... Awesome. See, this is why I like having Onyx in the chats, man, because he gets all the stuff that I don't have ready for me popped up. So that's a good description of definitions of surveillance, reconnaissance, and intelligence, because they are very different things, right? So that is a breakdown quickly, like real quick, of the article from they talk about commandos and they talk about where, but they never talk. There's a few things that they don't really talk about. One of the most important things that they don't talk about is who is hosting these proposed special reconnaissance squadrons, right? Is it going to be ACC or is it going to be AFSOC? Because the problem is that special reconnaissance, by definition, has to be a soft product. And if you are not within SOCOM or Air Force Special Operations Commands, there's always nuggets of truth, Glass, but I don't think it's that bad. I really don't. I think right now what's happening is everyone's trying to find their footing. So, but back to the point is that I don't think that these guys have fully thought everything through about what it is that what they're trying to do. And I think what they're trying to do is to try and snatch something that's brand new before it fully gathers its steam and fully goes to fully developed what it is. And I think because the nature of the special warfare enterprise underneath the Air Force itself is shifting and changing right now, as everyone can see if you're in the pipeline, if you're on team, if you've been out and you're talking to your friends, like it's drastically changing, right? Between the change in special reconnaissance, the change in some of the mission sets of TACP, CCT having to now pivot away from the JTAC mission to global access, and then J's are like the only one that doesn't really change. Right. So like as we're talking about these things, like what are we doing here? What's the things that we're focused on? I think that this idea that is proposed here within the article is actually a very good start. I think that I would like to see, and we talked about this when Peaches was on recently, is that I would like to see some sort of unified command for special warfare. And part of that is going to be unique squadrons and setups, right? I think we keep the 2 series, we keep the ASOSs. But then I think something like a special reconnaissance squadron would be great as an addition within a special tactics group, right? Something that is focused and maybe give the SR guys a little bit more of an opportunity to flex their stuff, and we start figuring out what they're authorized to do, what they're allocated to do, those kinds of things. So I think it gets a little weird, but like those are some of my ideas. I believe also part of the problem is that if you're going to have a soft force, they have to be selected, right? That's one of the most important things. That's one of the struggles with TACPs right now, is that you have to essentially go through 2 selections to be a soft TACP, because you can't just be a TACP and go to an ST unit, right? Like you have to go through an additional selection, which is why I think they're pushing right now for TACPs to go to SWAS, because once you go to SWAS, that then you hit that point of selection. And I think once you pull SR out of the ST side, you lose the selection bit, right? So I think that's where we're going. And yeah, AFSPEC War 2.0 pterodactyls on it, right? Yeah, it's something else, right? I honestly think it's kind of ridiculous, but that's me. The problem is that we come from a conventional force. So that was a lot faster than I anticipated to get to the bare bones of it. But what I would like to do now is to kind of talk about, or to get to your questions. I mean, we've got some real important thing, or we got really smart people in the chat. We've got people here. So if you guys got questions, comments, concerns, this is the time. I would love to have your questions. I will give my opinions and what I think based off of stuff. So whatever that is, So I hope you guys got your notes. I talked really fast. I did not mean to speak that fast. It's a little toasty in here, and it moved me quickly. So let's see here. I saw something. How well are SR guys utilized, advocated for, and how does a good STO handle this, or is that above them? From my experience, SR guys are advocated for just as well as everyone else, right? A lot of stuff is already taken care of, and I think part of the problem with that is that SAU-T as an enterprise, as a fully fleshed out soft force, was still pretty new. That's less than 25 years old, right? Like when I was in, SAU-T was kind of a thing, but it was underneath the guise of typical combat weather. Right, so you were just there wasn't a selection process, so it's that's why there's still a little bit of there's a little bit of animosity underneath the surface when it comes to CCT and SR guys, right? Because at the time, SAU-T guys were getting assigned to the 2 series units, but they hadn't necessarily been through a selection process, right? So it's a really interesting thing that has happened. So it's all there. So but I think a good STO, it doesn't really matter any of that. They should be advocating. They probably are. And yes, Stealth, that has been in the discussion points for a long time, but it's not ever since necessarily been a we're not trying there's never been a push to actually create an ODA, but there is an increasingly big focus on the unilateralness of what special tactics and what Air Force special warfare can do. That's why we always have you hear the jokes about the same beret color, and it pisses people off for some reason. But it's SF guys wear the same beret. MARSOC doesn't wear any. Every SEAL wears a Trident. Those kinds of things. So I don't think it's a big deal, but I think it's really important that we have those discussions and see where we're going to go. So it'd be interesting. I don't know where we're going to go, right? So it's going to be tough because as Pterodactyl puts in there is an obligation to support the conventional force, but at the same time, the requirements to create a TACP is so difficult that it doesn't make sense to me that it's not there, right? No, mags, they're not. So tier 1 things are different, completely different. SR guys are just regular special operators. There's nothing intrinsically special about it. They can go to tier 1 units, but and I think that's big of the problem. Well, SR doesn't do global access. SR is part of the global access team, right? So the big pushers in global access is going to be your controllers because of the ATC component. And I think part of the misunderstanding here, and it comes from me too, is because I don't fully understand it, is that there's so much stuff that, 1, is not known, and 2, that can't be talked about publicly, that so many people do not understand the SR mission set, right? Where they fit within precision strike teams, within global access teams, within PR teams, so how do they fit? How do they do? What are they doing? So it's like, and also Mags, I think that's probably also a misunderstanding of like just how the military works in general. And that's okay. It's like, I don't expect you guys to have like a full vested thing. Like our guys who are active, and even then like active dudes don't fully understand that kind of stuff too sometimes. So, but yeah, I think SR, I'm an advocate for SR as an Air Force operation, right? I think that we've been way behind the power curve when it comes to utilize. We've for too long focused on technical aspects of reconnaissance, and we're not. The human element's way too important. Like we have to be able to do it. We have to be out in the front, right? And I think the SR guy could probably get out a little bit beforehand, right? Unless it's something like, because most PR doesn't happen like super fast. Like there's always a planning phase. Maybe you can get your SR guy out a little bit forward, a little bit faster, right? I don't know. It's just an option. I don't know. I've never done PR stuff other than like the cast side of it, and that's very different. So it's totally wild. I think stealth hits the point right there. Reconnaissance mission and skill set is something that is very hardly understood, and I think that is very much a point of leaders failing, right? Like I think we need to do a better job of defining our terms, and I think we need to do a better job of advocating for what's important about it. You know, PR cast is a very strange thing because it involves both killing people and finding people, which the 810 does very well, and that is actually for the only argument I've ever heard to maintain the 810 is the personal recovery mission. Yeah, the people who are high up. I think the biggest thing is that people. So one of the problems with reconnaissance, especially on the special reconnaissance side, is that you're talking about people with stars, and they say, "I want this product," right? And then that request gets filtered down to the different units. That gets decided by, SOCOM pushes it down to the regional theater operations commands to SOC Cent or SOC South or something like that. And then that's fill that out to one of the teams, whichever team is going to be better at providing that type of reconnaissance. And then it's done, and then it's filtered up. It's gone through the intel and everything, and then it eventually ends back up on the desk of that guy with the stars product. And so there's so many steps that are lost in the way, right? So I think that's why these discussions and these articles are really important. Even if I disagree with the outcomes of them, the discussion's being had in very important places. Right, this is an academic journal where we're having the discussions about, as a practitioner, what are we going to do with special reconnaissance, right? Like this is totally off the wall. Like combining a unit that is special operators, intel, cyber guys, and electronic warfare dudes, like totally wild. And like, I mean, it's so off the wall that it could work, right? I don't like the idea. I think it's the right idea, but I think they didn't finish the thought out all the way, right? Like who owns it? Who's actually doing it? Are we focusing on hardware? Are we focusing on the human element? Are we combining the two? Are we talking about space effects? Because right now, in the I think in the AFSPEC war enterprise, your SR guys are the ones who are really going to be the key to introducing space effects, right? That's going to be something maybe the JTACs can get in on, but I think SR is going to be leading that element, The new Sky. Oh, dude. That's a good point. The new Skyrider in SR and PR cast is going to be interesting. I'm wondering if we're going to have to start seeing a new element, or maybe it'll just be a subset of teams in the global access team of like an SR guy and a JTAC, either a CCT or a TAC-P. And because one of the problems right now is the main reason that CCT guys are still going to JTAC as frequently as they are is that there's not as many TAC-Ps assessing for the 2 series units. They're all going to the 724 selections. And because they're at that point, like now me, I'm a weirdo. I think the 2 series units got really cool shit. So it's gonna be super interesting to see where these kinds of things go. What do you mean by easier access to supply? Because generally speaking, as we talk about great power competition, logistics is much more difficult than it is in G1. So Pterodactyl, this is why I think they're going to try and put people in SWAS, is because they're going to start taking people directly to the 2 series units. I don't have anything to add to this other than the fact that this is a career field because I don't understand it. Yeah. I think the type of people that are drawn to SR is it's the mystery that draws them in, right? I think that's super interesting. So fully agree. Also, the big thing, and people always forget as leaders, is they say, "Hey, I want you guys to watch this objective on this date, get it done," but they don't actually understand the balancing act of trying to push it the envelope. Oh yeah, 100%. Well, I think the movie Sniper with Billy Zane and what's his name, the dude from Major League, and then like movies like all the different sniper movies. I think it's given even the people in the military a wrong perspective of what sneaking and peeking is. That shit's hard, man. That shit's hard. I would argue that the mystery also gives more flexibility. SR, that is true. In my experience, those who get sorted into SR are the truly silent dudes who are studs. Yeah. Tom Berger, thank you, Deja. Awesome. Bonus points. Your points don't matter and they don't count, but bonus points for you, sir. No, these are some good points that you guys are making. I really appreciate it. I think you guys have got your thinking caps on, and I really love that. Ask your questions, SR stuff. I can't answer about the job because I don't know about it, but so I think that the biggest thing when we talk about special reconnaissance is, let me read the definition of what special reconnaissance is. So there's a paragraph here. I can read the whole thing, but it's really not that. But it's reconnaissance and surveillance actions normally conducted in a clandestine or covert manner to collect or verify information of strategic operational significance, employing military capabilities not normally found in the conventional force. And that's really important right there. The green side, oof. Yeah. The big thing is that these are things that your three-level agencies can't do, and I can't expound on that because I don't know exactly what they've done. But maybe, hey, Stealth, do you want to pop? Let me invite you up here if you don't mind, kind of expanding on your statement there. Let me see here. I invite you to speak. So if you would like to expand on your green side reconnaissance statement.
Hello.
Testing.
Yeah. So for all of you guys who don't know, the green side reconnaissance mission, which is like the most basic, bare bones, what reconnaissance has always been since like World War II, Vietnam, all of those, is basically you get inserted into some area, and for the most part, it's usually behind enemy lines because you're trying to observe some sort of objective that is a key objective in strategic level or whatever it may be. But you get inserted in, it could be a short movement, it could be a long movement, it could be through mountains, it could be through swamps, but for the most part, it's usually through the worst type of terrain because your goal is to not get compromised, and people inherently are lazy. So if you are, if you're on a post, would you rather patrol a road or would you rather patrol a swamp that's 100 meters off the road? We can get into a lot of other things, but the basic thing is humans are inherently lazy and don't want to deal with the bullshit, which is why as a recondo or in reconnaissance you have to go through like the shittiest terrain, and you have to find the shittiest terrain, and then you have to find the shittiest bush, and obviously there's multiple different types of hide sites, but just for example, you have to find a shitty bush, and you have to, sit in that bush for 4 to 7 days, to even longer. I think the longest non-resupplied reconnaissance mission was, I think it was some Brits, and it was 22 days or something around that. Which, again, it's shitty, but for the right person, it is incredibly fun, and it does take a very special individual for reconnaissance because it's it could be the most boring thing, and you could be sitting on an LZ waiting for things to happen and nothing happens, or in one of the patrols that we did up in Norway, it was a constant like firing back to the COC about, hey, there's troop movement here, there's troop movement here, there's IFVs over here, there's comm set up here, and then that's totally fun. But there's there's also the chance of you just sitting there seeing absolutely nothing, and then that's all you're reporting on.
And then if you wouldn't mind giving the definition of what you mean by green side.
So greenside, at least for us, greenside reconnaissance is you're just out in the bush. There's multiple different types of reconnaissance. You have like urban reconnaissance, greenside, which is just out basically in nature. If you think of it, just you're in nature, you're eating nature's suck. Urban reconnaissance is obviously if you're tailing someone or if you're in a building taking photographs of individuals, vehicles, compounds, whatnot.
Yeah.
There's also we have it black side, which is more DA stuff. For us, we do. I don't know. This is one thing I'm not curious about if SR does like limited scale raids and whatnot. But one thing that we do in Marine Recon is limited scale raids. So that's more like black side that we separate it, green side and black side. Which you can mix the two. Not doesn't happen a lot, but yeah, green side is really just more focused on you're out in the bush. Think of like a Vietnam type of reconnaissance of where you're sent out to affect the battle space and then hopefully come back and return.
And I will say this, that so the ST, part of the missions, the requirement of ST is the ability to do DA stuff, but it is so far down on the priority list that, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to be a part of a raid, especially as like a controller or attack P, probably a J. SR, I don't know how that's going to fit, but like it's a thing that you can do. I don't know if it's something that they're thinking about yet. I think they're still trying to figure that out, So, because I mean, yeah, I've talked. There's still ideas about like who's allowed to do what with like ISET stuff, and who's allowed to do this with SWAS stuff in the States versus with out in Europe or something like that. So like, big Air Force and big DOD still can't decide about authorizations and legalities and that kind of stuff. So there's still stuff there that's still trying to be figured out. So, but thanks, dude. I appreciate that. You're our local reconnaissance guru who's not Air Force.
Soon to be, hopefully, though.
Hopefully. Long range interdiction is probably going to be one of the small things, right? I also don't know anybody who's going to be a JTAC as an SR guy. I just don't think that's just not going to happen. There's already too many guys trying to get. There's only so many JTAC slots. There's just not going to be an SR guy who's going to be a JTAC. It's just not going to happen.
I also don't see that. I just see them attaching like a TAC P with them, or obviously if a controller has a JTAC. Yeah.
I think right now your stuff's going to be currently, like I said, it's going to be controllers mostly, unless they start pulling guys straight out of phase 2 and the FTU. So SOTAC, Pterodactyl, help me on this. I don't think, does SOTAC still exist? And no, I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't see any kind of controller aspect for SR. Caps. Yeah, no, SOTAC, I think SOTAC's pretty much gone away because everyone now has their own JTAC school. Like the Navy runs their own JTAC school because they no longer will take Air Force guys because we don't play their stupid game. The Marine Corps, I believe, has their own JTAC school. Am I correct there, Stealth? Do you know that?
I think we piggyback off of TAC P.
Okay.
I know that there's a TAC P up in Virginia that most of our guys have gone to as well.
Okay.
On the West Coast.
Well, the one of the biggest issues with trying to get JTAC stuff authorized is that the Marine Corps has to have a say because of the nature of doctrine and strategy and the Key West Agreement and all that shit. So, so it used to be one course, man. Like everyone used to go to the same JTAC course, and then the only people who were authorized were Air Force and the Marines. Like the Navy couldn't be a JTAC in the Navy, right? You had to take a controller with you. And then I think between the John Chapman controversy and some of the other shit that has happened, there was a lot. I think there was a push for the Navy to control and own their own JTACs. And then it also they can do that because of like naval shit and naval, and I think most of those instructors are Marines anyways. So, but yeah, I don't think like there's no SOTAC anymore. Like SOTAC was like a chopped down JTAC course, and I think especially in the Air Force with the advent of the weapons school or the WIC course for JTACs, I think they just got rid of it. Like you're just gonna have to be a full JTAC now.
I don't know about in recent years, but I know I was on a cast range like a month ago or 2 months ago, and I was with a few MARSOC dudes, and one of them went to SOTAC, but I think he went in like 20. I want to say 21 or 22.
Well, then
So
it may still be a
recent
thing
years,
then.
recent years, yeah, I'm not sure if it's still around now, but I know in like 21 or 22, it was definitely around.
Yeah.
But nowadays, who knows?
I honestly don't. I think they need to get rid of SOTAC. It just creates badness. I think they need to limit who can be a JTAC anyways. But yeah, but to boil it back to swing it back to where we're gonna go, I just do not see SR. There's limited slots, and the JTAC course is so long, and the biggest issue isn't the qual. The issue is maintaining your qualification. Like, you've got to drop live ordnance like frequently. So like, how are they going to get enough planes? Right? Like, you know, I think that's part of the reason why CCTs are getting rid of CCT JTAC slots, is because they're pulling in TACPs, because when they turn the Ranger Regiment unit into an ST unit, they had to open up all the 2 series to TACPs. So that's what, no, it's, you're doing, that's exactly what this is for, is to clear up information like that. So that is a good thing, you know? So yeah, it's going to be interesting, because I think this is where the Aspect War 2.0 thing is really important. The idea of unified command, because do you just put two SR guys out there and then do type 3 controls with attack P back in the States, or back at the talk, or back in, you know, like, how does that work? You know, because I think, you know, I know I've talked to the Pterodactyl about some things, and I know there's some stuff that we can't really, you know, that you don't want to really get into, but like, you know, these are things that not only are affecting SR, but how multiple types of units are planning to operate beyond the forward edge of the battle area and the forward line of troops, right? Like, these are the kinds of things that we're talking about, not just in the soft side, but the conventional side as well. And so it's like, where do we get this information, or how do we get this information going? How do we talk about it? You know, who's authorized to do what? Dude, FIBA's my favorite fucking acronym, dude. I have no reason why, but FIBA's my favorite. Mostly because I like doing TOT shit. That was one of my favorite things as a JTAC.
Do type 2 and 3s, even if like the TACP's back in those COC. I know I don't know Air Force stuff, so it could be different for y'all, but I know for us that's
the idea. What is a type 2 and 3 is pretty much this. It should be the same, because it's doctrinally described. Holy shit, that is a block of text.
Oh.
Hey, Whiskey, have a topic that may be related, but if not, let me know. Based on stuff I've seen, like often favors complex proprietary systems that limit flexibility. Yes. Something I've seen in maintenance, cybersecurity, and drone operations, where restrictive systems can slow innovation and field adaptation. With the introduction of the cab units, you're going to have to expand that for me, because I've not heard that, because I'm not in the attempt to train together and speak some of the same language. How much of these capabilities will be loaded into the Big Blue, if at all? Should skills like drone piloting be a separate? Ooh, good question. How does the way that airmen are treated affect their deployments and overall? Is the Air Force too resistant to updating training, too real world? What does the failure in training? Ooh, that's a good question. So there's a lot here, Ski. First of all, I can answer some things, but if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat what is a CABS unit? I don't know. I've never heard that one before. If anyone else can. I think one of the biggest issues with the Air Force is culture, and the problem is for the longest time the Air Force has functioned far too much on a corporate structure culturally, and what that has done is it's hurt our maintainers. I think in the greatest part is because they kind of work on a business mindset, and there's not enough downtime, and people get burnt out, and then we just keep filling people in, and I think it really hurts. But also, we've lost the idea of a warrior ethos. This was kind of some of the things that we've been trying to fix, and I just don't know what it's going to go. This is why I'd like to see a special warfare dude as the SimSAF, or whatever they're calling it now. You know, I think that's really important, or I'd also like to see a non-fighter pilot, preferably a special warfare guy, be a chief of staff of the Air Force, because I think that would be really important. Because I think one of the biggest problems we have with our leadership in the Air Force is that things look very different outside of a cockpit, right? And I think this is part of the reason why, like, we have these discussions. is that, like, you know, there's a loss in this identity of what things are doing. And I think that's why this article is such a good thing about, we're talking about where special reconnaissance fits within the Air Force enterprise, is that there's a bunch of different perspectives, and outside of the fighter pilots and your special warfare guys, there's not a lot of perspective of like where the warrior ethos is. And I think being a fighter jockey isn't necessarily the same as being on the ground, right? Like, so like that's part of the reason why like TACP was kind of like thrown off to the side for so long, because no one knew what to do with us, because we weren't soft guys. So they didn't want to treat us like CCT and J's, but at the same time, we weren't Air Force, right? Now, the thing is, when it comes to SWA stuff and should it be a separate AFSC, the biggest thing there is that the AFSC in question that kind of dominates all that is security forces. They're in charge of the purchasing. They are in charge of like a lot of the training and everything. And stateside wise, they're the ones that have the authorization to and some of this is in the article. This is where I'm pulling it from. So that's part of the reason why we struggle with training for guys like SR, because there's a lot of stuff that's FAA unsat stuff that we can't do. So those kinds of things. Thank you, Ski. I'm going to take a peek at it real quick. Let me open that up. Air Force units of action. Oh, I've read this article. I just don't remember the CABES thing. National Emergency Policy. Yeah. So this is kind of like the ACE stuff, the Agile Combat Employment and Air Force Gen. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Combat Wings. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. No, it's cool. I just hadn't heard that term, so thank you for clarifying that right there.
One thing I'd love to say about the like, should drone piloting be a separate AFCC? We have a similar kind of thing over here, where it was one of the first raids that we did when we were attached to the MU, and the MU commander was like, "All right, we want all these enablers sent out on this raid site so we can do multiple different things, whether it be like Humid, Comcam. There was I think we had at least 12 to 15 extra people on the raid site. They were not shooters. They were not shooters at all. They were just there to do whatever their specific jobs were. And after that raid, the commander found out that we should never do that again, because you're on a raid site. Like, you are there for a specific reason. You're there to either gather information or kill someone. Or obviously you can do both, but like, you were there for a specific reason. And would it be nice to get some signal intelligence and all this stuff kind of gathered? Yes. However, taking more room and more space and just causing more friction on the raid force during already a kinetic operation was just ridiculous. And I think that for 100% that drone piloting should not be a separate AFSC, because you need someone on the ground who already understands the job and what you're doing to assist with that. Because not only, let's just say you take a security forces guy and then they're flying the drone with you. Let's say you're doing green side reconnaissance. They have no understanding of how to do proper reconnaissance, whether it be proper reconnaissance movements, stalking, any sort of that stuff. Whereas if you take someone that is in that career field and then give them separate skills as drone piloting, signal communications, all this type of stuff, they understand the basic level mission and they understand how to operate under that. And then they can just add on top of that separate skill of, let's just say, SUAS, and it makes it flow so much better. And like, you can see this even like if you take like a grunt and give them to the mission of like counter reconnaissance, and then you take a recon or someone that does reconnaissance and then make them do reconnaissance. The odds of the reconnaissance person finding the recon team that's out there doing the counter recon, finding the recon team, is so much higher, just because we know how they think. And whereas if you take a grunt or just some random job, they don't understand like how it actually works. Whereas we're always thinking like, hey, if I was doing this, I'd be in that bush, or I'd be over there, I'd be using this piece of terrain to match my movement to come up, whatever it may be. It provides so much information, and it can really smooth out how the mission goes, because just everyone knows kind of what they're supposed to do on an inherent level, and you don't have to like directly say like walk this way and try to stay hidden, something like that. It's you really need people that truly understand like what you're there for holistically.
Well, it's like something like SWAS is a skill set. I don't think there's enough there that you can take the time to dedicate to an AFSC, right? To a separate job, because one, you need someone who can understand what they're looking at. Like, and then understand, I think the biggest though part is the skill sets of being a reconnaissance. Like, I've been in hide sites, but like I know that like my hide sucked, right? Because I'm not a reconnaissance guy, right? But like they needed a JTAC, and so like it was with a with a conventional force reconnaissance. But like even there's a skill set there that I just didn't have.
Yeah, for sure. You don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm. And then so let me answer the failure in training having such a stigma. I think part of the problem has been the fact that everything has been looked upon and been operated as a no-fail mission, right? Like on the big blue side, like there's not an idea of that failure as the greatest teacher, right? Like, and if this is a problem, I think across DOD, and I think there's a lot of our other active guys can probably engage with me on this. Like things like NTC, the National Training Center, that's designed for the unit that goes there to fail. But then it becomes this huge thing that like people get punished for failure, right? Like I once watched a young private get an Article 15 for deploying his reserve chute. Because he did what he was supposed to. He looked up and he saw a helmet-sized hole, so he opened his chute, and then because it's like, and then that became a failure. Like, what are you talking about? And I think that's where we're at. Is that like there's a misunderstanding of what failure can teach us, and I think that's where we're at. And I think we need to get back to the idea that failing and then failing fast is really important, right? Oh, I'm sorry, dude. So that's really the thing. I don't think that's the case, Glass. I think we're seeing it in Ukraine right now. Other than the counter drone thing is not succeeding in Ukraine. That the anti-air is a real thing. But I think we're going to learn from our lessons learned, and this is one of the real reasons like I really want to make sure that we still support Ukraine, is that the lessons learned that we can take as American fighting forces is going to be huge from some of those things, right? So like it's going to be interesting. Stealth's got a better answer than me as always when it comes to reconnaissance stuff. I just think of the big thing. Like I talk doctrine and stuff like that, and Stealth can put it into like tactical importance. So let's see. I'm looking here at this. So a combat air base squadron. I think that's just good. I think a CABS is just supposed to be like a forward version of like what an air base squadron would be anyways. So that's gonna be interesting. So, well, I'm out of talking points, but if anyone has questions, go ahead, either raise your hand or put it in the chat, or if you have a question for Stealth, we won't go too big. We already did a chat with him, even though I couldn't record it because the fucking audio got weird. We'll have to do that again, Stealth. That was really good. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, no worries.
My dumbass couldn't get the audio right. I'm an old man trying to learn technology. So, hey, so
technology still fucks with me sometimes.
So I think it was Glass. You said you're in the pipeline. Where are you at in the pipeline, if you don't mind? Love to know. So and then we got someone else here in the chat who's in SWAS. So, love to know. Oh, nice, dude. Nice.
Good time.
Dope. We gotta change your roles, man. We gotta put Cone on there. You're not a Dep dude anymore. You're a Cone. That's the Special Reconnaissance Apprentice course. That is the last course you go through before you get your beret. Cool. You got some good updated information. Thanks for being here, dude. I really appreciate it. And I do appreciate you chatting with us about that stuff, letting us know what's going on. Did you go to dive yet, Glass, or did you miss the dive?
Don't be scared. You'll be fine. Free fall, at least for me, was like one of the best parts of my military career.
I don't know how free fall could be scarier than airborne, dude.
Oh, I hate it. Yeah, airborne was so much worse. Like free fall, you're so high that you're just like, yeah, fuck it, whatever.
Wait, there's more than one free fall course? I know the Navy has their own, but like, there's more than one?
I mean, so the one that I went to for the Marine Corps first doesn't exist anymore because the company that ran it, because it was a civilian-run course, I think they went out of business or something.
Yeah.
They might have sold. But then they created a new course in Yuma. But there is an Army course in Yuma. There's now Marine course in Yuma. The Navy has, I think, their own course.
It's not sounding like it, dude. The Army, as far as I know, the Army course is still at Yuma. You may not be going. It may be something else, but I'm surprised that the Air Force doesn't have its own free fall course. I think that every special warfare airman. So here, rant time for whiskey coming up here. I think that every special warfare airman, every SEER guy, and every EOD guy in the Air Force needs to go to airborne and free fall minimum. Minimum. It makes us the best enablers possible. Like we can attach to any team, anything, and then you just put your important guys through dive. All J's go through dive, maybe SR guys, and then CCT and TAC P is needed, right?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, SR would probably be the most kind of, I guess, plausible thing to go to dive school. However, still, like, the last combat dive that was done was like the early 2000s.
Well, the Jays use dive for a plethora of things. So they were the reason that the Thai soccer team got rescued was from their dive stuff.
Yep.
Right. So and I think that's going to be more likely to happen. I can't think of unless the SEALs are doing some shit and they need a J or a JTAC or something like that. Right. It's just wild,
Makes no sense. Yup. Static is.
Hey man, I have a star on my jump wings. Static line, baby. This homie doesn't hate static. I love jumping, dude. I was a JM. I love that shit.
No, I hate static. Static's the worst. I've had a single good jump static line, and it was because I landed in like 3 feet of snow.
I think when you don't have the free fall experience, and all you have is static,
100%, yeah.
That, I think we might have to do that as a separate day. And honestly, that's really that last bit of your sentence, Bambi, is it. Be a good cadet, be a good dude. Onyx, if you wouldn't mind, hit him with the TED Talk. Didn't get to yeah, that's fair. And the eyes are so calm.
You want me to say something about ROTC?
No, I was saying hit him with the TED Talk. Put the link in there.
Got it. Will do.
Onyx is my Jamie. Oh, you've watched it, but it's good to have it. Yeah, so there's your keys right there, dude. Let's see here. ST's got from the eyes of SOCOM and other branches they see are absolute strengths, being ATC, JTAC, and combat medicine. Yep. So this is pushing for the consolidation. Under one beret. So take the consolidation of the Air Force Special Warfare career fields into one with a mighty grain of salt, because it's not something that is 100% for sure. It's just it's a talking point that's been around for a while, and we already kind of set up as you're describing here. So it's like we have PR teams, personal recovery teams, we have strike teams, and then we have global access teams, right? So the most common is going to be your strike teams, your precision strike team. So every 2 series ST unit has strike teams. The entirety of the ASOS is a strike and ISET team. That's kind of like what they do. And then global access does a lot of weird things. And then you got your tier 1 global access that does other weird things. And then of course PR stuff. So I don't know. I think I think this is the kind of stuff that's being figured out right now at the A staff, at A3 blah blah, A3X something, which is the special warfare branch. There's so much stuff that's going on right now that like we don't have an answer to what's happening. There's people like Jimmy Cackler who would spend a lot of time who would advocating for unified command. It's not going to be. These things are not set in stone, and we're going to figure it out. Like you're going to hear about it probably before I do, because I'm so far removed from things. I'm hearing it like unless Peaches or Aaron text me and say, "Hey, dude, here's some news," or like if Pterodactyl gives me a holler on the DMs, right? That's really it, right? That's all I've got. So just stay tuned. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's not really going to be changing anytime soon. So. But we're going to wrap that up right there, guys. So thanks so much for hanging out. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something out of this. You guys have some really good, thoughtful questions. I really appreciate that. So thank you for your time. If you guys want to, pop over to the regular voice chat. We can continue chatting about things. But thanks for hanging out, guys. I hope this worked for you. I hope you enjoyed. So see you guys next time.